And we're live. Aha, apparently. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Oh, with me 1 wee second, folks. Critically forgot something. Dear oh dear. Sorry about that, folks. Forget my head if it wasn't screwed on. Ooh, there we go. And it's just gone 11 o'clock. 11 p.m. Have mercy, Doc. I would have been on a wee bit early, colleges and cannibals. Sorry about that. But I actually ended up being a bit knackered and had to have a nap. So, but yeah, I'm not sure of a good time to do these things, to be honest with you. But usually the 10 o'clock thing fits in a bit better with my lifestyle, if you like. But yeah, I just thought we'll probably not be on for not too long tonight, colleges and cannibals, but because we're just sort of getting our setup for the next year. But I will say hello and thanks for joining me as always, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Ulster-Fry, as we're going to call it, over the next year. So I suppose really the thing is just for tonight to have a wee bit of a chat about a few things in general with science fiction and what we're getting on with the channel. Last night what we did was we had a wee quick run through, just to be completest, of the story The Road to June. There we go, The Road to June. That's what we had a wee nosy at, just for the book club. Excuse me, from Frank Herbert's collection of stories I published in 1985. Pardon me. So we had a wee quick kind of natter about a couple of things last night, but because we were kind of doing a book clubby thing, I wanted to kind of come back and set up a sort of stall for our Sci-Fi Ulster-Fry for the rest of the year. It's going to be a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a mishmash of a few things, but we're hoping to make it a combination of live broadcasts and discussions, and hopefully a few videos as well if we can get at them. And we're looking to move house quite soon, really, to hopefully, for a number of reasons, but hopefully to create a better work environment for me, because it's been very difficult to work here lately. But yes, indeed. So there's Carlos Cosessa saying, "Hey Dog, how's it hanging?" Not too bad, Carlos. How you doing? Thanks very much for joining us. I'm doing okay. Still trying to get on the far end of this flu at the minute. But let me see. I just realised let me just turn that off as well, in case we get interrupted. But otherwise, I'm quite good actually. I feel kind of positive. Looking forward to it. We've been getting our house kind of ready. Doing a few wee things here and there just to get it ready for putting it up for sale. And I suppose Christmas and the holidays are about to land, and probably once that's done, then we'll go ahead with that, and fingers crossed, hopefully things go well, but we'll have maybe a move. This should be our last Christmas in this house. So there we go. So no, it's everything's going great. Carlos, how about yourself? I thought I'd pop on tonight. I'll probably just do about an hour, I think, and explain what we're going to be doing with the rest of the year. So we're going to be doing our God Emperor of June book club, and we're going to be going with the usual kind of Thursdays at 10, I think. Pardon me, GMT. By the way, colleges, I'm always open to a better sort of suggestions on a better time frame, if you like, in terms of doing things. It's almost impossible to get any work done during the day. Unfortunately, so it tends to be evenings and night times. And oddly enough, as someone who used to be a professional musician, the programs here kind of run on the same time frames as gigs and stuff, with me being a bit nocturnal anyway, But what we're hoping to do is run the God Emperor of June book club on the Thursdays, and then on the Fridays we're going to be doing what we call our Sci-Fi Ulster-Fry. If you know anything about Ulster-Fry, it's a bit of a hodgepodge, isn't it? But hopefully within that we're going to do a few things. We wanted to do an A to Z of science fiction, which would be by no means comprehensive or inclusive, but a pretty good one. I was hoping really just to point out lots of good sci-fi to people of all sorts of generations, different cultures, things that you may have missed, this kind of thing. with the focus on quality, the really, the good stuff, the greats, if you like. And I thought I'd have a wee quick chat tonight about a few of the things that I'm reading, the sci-fi that's on my radar, if you like, and what I'm looking forward to. And as always, I'll be delighted to hear what you guys are reading or watching or listening to, whatever medium it is that you like to enjoy science fiction in. But the first thing, just for tonight, I suppose, I had a wee quick chat the other night about Jill Gerard passing away. I suppose his dates are 1943 to 2025, so it was a good age, wasn't he? And I'm just briefly having a wee chat last night, but just to sort of point out, I think he was a fantastic Buck Rogers. There aren't too many Buck Rogers that have been about, I suppose. And I suppose in relation to what he did with the role, I think it's a big thumbs up for me. I'm a huge fan of Buck Rogers in the 25th century, and just very sad to hear that he passed away after a long and seems to be successful life. And it just got me thinking a little bit about Buck Rogers, etc. In the 25th century, we have a Captain William Buck Rogers is a little bit different than our Anthony Buck Rogers that we first meet in Armageddon 2419. So it was just to say, I suppose, in terms of Buck Rogers, if anybody's not watched it, I'll tell you what, actually, give me 1 wee second, I'll go grab it for you. I should have brought this up. Bear with me. Oh, happy holidays, happy holidays. Yes, indeed. Carl said, I'm looking forward to getting into God Emperor. So many insights into Leto's mind and the Golden Path. Yes, indeed. Looking forward to it myself. Happy to, by the way, chat about anything tonight, science fiction, including the Dune stuff. If anybody's got any questions or comments or recommendations or anything like that, let me know. So I'm sure it's available on streaming, but this is what I've got, which is the lot, really. Buck Rogers in the 25th century. As a very sort of, that one there is the iconic kind of movie shot, isn't it? I suppose the season 1 is arguably much better than season 2. Doesn't really matter. It's very camp, very fun science fiction for the whole family, which is something you don't really get much of these days. Pardon me. I'm just thinking about some of the great episodes in this and its influence on science fiction and pop culture in general. Goodness, what I've been playing Mass Effect, all three actually. We've got the odd character in Mass Effect that's actually from this. And I was also thinking what a great show it was for older actors, if you like. There's a particularly really good episode where they have these elderly bomber pilots. There's some real sci-fi gold in Buck Rogers. And I suppose as a product of what would it be, very late 1970s, is it? Let me see. Did I make any wee scribbles on this? I went to see. That reminds me. By the way, let's just look it up very quickly. Buck Rogers is a name again that's kind of passed into pop culture. There we go. Ran from 2 seasons between September 1979 and April 1981 on NBC, and the feature-length pilot episode for the series was released as a theatrical film. Which leads me into something else, by the way, because I went to see Buck Rogers in the 25th century in the cinema, and then was absolutely, as a kid when it hit the TV, I actually saw things like Battlestar Galactica in the cinema as well. And then was quite pleased to see it arrive on the TV. In fact, I actually saw all 3 Battlestar Galactica movies, the old series, in the cinemas. So absolutely great stuff. And it was just a, if anybody's not too familiar with Buck Rogers himself, I suppose we have the original story is Philip Francis Nolan's Armageddon 2419. I think I have a bit of it here somewhere in one of these. It's kind of science fiction from the era of the, I suppose, what is it they call it? The kind of perceived yellow peril. This is the kind of threat that's perceived from Asia and America. 446. Bear with me a second. A lot of people think, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why they think this, that Buck Rogers is a rip-off of Flash Gordon, and it's actually the other way around. Buck Rogers is the original, Flash Gordon is the imitator, Just to give you a wee bit of a hint of it, actually, this is the first page of it from Armageddon 2419. This is from 1928 by Philip Francis Nolan. There are still many in the world who are not familiar with my unique experience. I should state, therefore, that I, Anthony Rogers, am, so far as I know, the only man alive whose normal span of life has been spread over a period of 573 years. There we go. That's the start of it, the original. Pardon me. That's just, I've got from a wee classic science fiction stories collection there. Now, so yeah, the original Buck Rogers 28 turned up again. We have in 1929 with the comic strips. I think it first published to come along on the 7th of January 1929. We had a radio show in the 1930s, or about 1932, and of course the serial film from 1939, which is fantastic. The old Buck Rogers and Flash Gordons, of course, with Larry Buster Crabbe. If anybody's not ever seen these old black and white movie serials, what's the one I always quite like? I always get its name wrong. Is it City Under the Sea? Undersea Kingdom? Something like that. Bear with me. Who's that? Oh, it's not that, is it? Oh goodness, I'm trying to remember the name of it. I've been actually watching it on Amazon a wee bit. Is it something Underwater Kingdom, Undersea Kingdom? I think. Pardon me, the name eludes me right now. But I mean, if you haven't seen any of these, a lot of them are on Amazon. For example, Amazon Prime and stuff. The old Buck Rogers, the old Flash Gordon Saturday movie serials, if you like, and they're fantastic. They're great fun. They have a sense of pantomime to me these days, I think. But I used to watch them when I was young. The fact that they were in black and white made no difference to me as a little kid. So they're very, very good indeed. Just I suppose within Buck Rogers itself, we've seen a very recent, quite good imitation of its titles, which I think is one of the best sequences on a TV series ever, by South Park in the episode "Go God Go," where Eric Cartman wakes up in the 25th century having had himself frozen by butters, isn't it, in order to await the arrival of the Wii 2. It's a very good visual parody. Carlos is saying, I remember that show well. It was a staple of 70s sci-fi here in America. Beady, beady, beady. Laughing out loud. Yes, indeed. The battle between the earth and sea, maybe. Oh, I haven't seen that. Is that this? Is that the horrendous thing from the BBC and the Doctor Who universe? I think you're talking about. Is that right, Carlos? I haven't seen it and probably won't see it. We don't watch the BBC in this house at all. For all sorts of reasons. We don't want them coming to our door with their goods. Battle between Earth and Sea. Maybe if let me see. I know the name of the actor. Hang on. It's from one of those. Is it Crash Corrigan? Is that his name? Crash Corrigan. That's him. Ray Crash Corrigan. Where do you get his nickname? Famous for appearing in many B-Western movies, Three Musketeers, The Rangebusters films. Let's see. Says many of his, that's interesting, many of his early roles were in ape costumes, for example, as a gorilla in Tarzan and His Mate, 1934, and an orangeopod in the first Flash Gordon serial. It's the Undersea Kingdom. There you go. Screen breakthrough role, starring role in the Republic serial, The Undersea Kingdom, which evoked memories of Universal's first Flash Gordon serial. There you go. That's the one I'm thinking on. From 1936 is a Republic Picture 12-chapter film serial released in response to Universal's Flash Gordon. It was the second of the 66 serials made by Republic. In 1966, the serial was edited into a 100-minute television film titled Charade of Atlantis. Yeah, they do this with these old Saturday morning serial movies, don't they? They re-edit them into movies and give them different names. Rocket Man's always been a bit of an interest to me. He's Rocket Man, but I think he's Commander Cody or something like this in America. Yeah. Unga Khan. Again, you've got the sort of bad guys, or Khans, if you like, this perception of the Yellow Peril, as it was known. But an absolutely fantastic series. Undersea Kingdom is the one I'm thinking of. What is it? Why do I always think it's City Under the Sea or something like that? I'm thinking on something else. Yeah, it's on Amazon at the minute. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's great fun. The cliffhangers, etc. It's part of that is the thing that I really enjoy. Again, as much as there are imitators for that within Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, there we've got an example of a show again, Undersea Kingdom. Buck Rogers has lots of imitators apart from Flash Gordon, who turns up in 1934. Off the top of my head, we've got from 2008, I think there's Dash Decent, Rocket Red Glare. Who else have we got? Got Flash Gordon. Dan Dare would be an imitator, I think. Flash Gordon, we've got Flash Gordon, Captain Kremen as well. Who's kind of I don't know, is Kenny Everett kind of spoofing all of these, if you like, So it's just getting a wee chance to have a bit of a natter about Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, these kind of characters. I grew up reading, either watching or reading quite a few of these. Would have watched all the Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon stuff. I would have been reading down there in Eagle, 2008 and Revolver. Dash Decent would have been in 2008. Goodness, we got Flash Gordon on the TV and the movies. Rocket Regular is a kind of one of these kind of I suppose comedy versions of these kind of heroes, like where they've grown old, if you like, a bit like the Dan Dare that you'll find in Revolver. So and Captain Kremen, of course, is a big favorite of mine from Kenny Everett, which you can find on YouTube as well. So yeah, Armageddon 2419 is our first. We just read you the first little bit of it there. It was published in the August 1928 episode of Amazing Stories. We have other stories like the Air Lords of Ham, etc. So it was just in terms of the impact of Buck Rogers is kind of the, I don't know, is pushing towards a particular type of hero, if you like, and within that group, there's ideas of what we call this Edisonian hero and the Robinsonian hero, and he's very much, I suppose, a Robinsonian. This is an idea put forward that certain types of heroes in literature, if you like, are a certain way. The Robinsonian comes from Donald Defoe's Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, and is generally someone who's out of time, out of place, has to become a bit self-reliant, this kind of thing. The Edisonian is kind of more of an inventor hero that you get within science fiction, though the people who've put forward this idea have stated that it has to be usually an American, it has nothing to do with any inventor heroes from Greek mythology whatsoever, which tells you all about kind of where their archetype is, if you like. Characters like Daedalus and historical personages like Archimedes, I suppose, as inventor heroes, kind of rule out the idea of the Edisonade and the Robinsonade, if you like. Uh, but yes, indeed, and I suppose the other wee thing just is that Buck Rogers. I mean, there's been a few attempts to make Flash Gordon again, without much success. But Buck Rogers, nobody's really had another go at it. And the only thing I would say is that for those who maybe didn't pick it up, is that I used to think that arguably Farscape is very much a kind of new version of Buck Rogers. That Edisonade hero, where he's a kind of the inventor. I suppose the inventor hero, the Edisonade, has been always used to go about with the ideas that there's the girl, the inventor, and the slugger, if you like. They get the hero, the typical punch-about hero, the pilot, football star, this kind of thing. And I suppose ultimately what you get coming out of these kind of sci-fi heroes like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon ultimately will be characters like John Crichton from Farscape, who is the hybrid, if you like. He's the combination of the scientist and the slugger, the hero, the pilot, you know. But so that's where I would think is that Farscape is very much a modern day version of it, you know. But in terms of Buck Rogers in the 25th century, the things that I enjoyed out of it, I mean, you got some fantastic guest star actors. The whole setup for the show, the look of it, you know, the use of models and stuff like that, space battles, everything about it, the very cheesy campness of it, you know, and you know, come on, princess, you know how to boogie, don't you? And I suppose it's also got it's one of those shows that is around at the end of disco, if you like, that transition of the 70s into the 80s. I think it's got something for everybody, and if anybody hasn't really seen it, I suppose you might consider this old cheesy rubbish now. But I think this was the most popular show on the earth at the time, when it came out, and certainly for the first series, it had sustaining power. You know, it was must see TV for me when I was a kid. I would run in from the street, you know, to watch Buck Rogers. Not too many shows would get me running in. You know, and in particular, I'd have to catch the titles. I really enjoyed the titles, still do. And as a bass player, there's a couple of versions of the theme tune from Buck Rogers in the 25th century. But there's a particular one where the bass has been cleaned up on it, and it's absolutely insane. It would put some of YouTube's bass players, you know, Charles Berto and people like that, to possibly give them a bit of a challenge, you know. But there we go. So it's just very sad to hear of Jill Gerard passing away. As I said, I thought he was a phenomenally good Buck Rogers. And it's a show that I don't have anything particularly bad to say about. I still find it thoroughly enjoyable, especially in this day and age of ultra-violent TV and stuff. I'm sort of heading towards old sci-fi shows to stick on the telly and just on the background for a look. So we've got Buck Rogers anyway, folks. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll catch up. Let's just see if we've got any the battle between Earth and Sea. Maybe I take it that's what we were talking. I'd seen it advertised. Cause it's illegal because I don't pay the BBC for a TV license. It's illegal for me to watch or participate technically in live broadcasts or live TV of any kind, etc. But even just coming back from London not too long ago, we were on holiday a couple of times. The level of hatred for the BBC in the UK is surprised me, actually. To be honest with you, but I don't like them, and I'm not like we're being if you know, they're spying on us and all sorts of things. They're trying to catch people, and oddly enough, they behave exactly like Northern Ireland terrorists in the way that they come to your door with somebody with a gun. They're a very distasteful bunch of people. The BBC, the BBC, what the letters stand for has kind of become a national conversation. But what you can come up with for BBC, if you like, is they're all quite horrific acronyms these days, you know. Doesn't exactly grab my interest either. Carlos, it struck me as very odd that it seemed to be like almost there's a weird character from the sea, isn't there, in Rick and Morty, and it almost as if somebody thought, hey, let's make a movie out of that. I don't know. Um, I don't like the BBC's. I don't know what is it. I suppose I don't like their production. I don't like any kind of shows that they've done. I don't like their special effects. I don't like how they go about their business. To be honest with you, I don't like the look of their stuff. And I haven't for a long time. It's not a recent gripe, you know. Asimov's Lucky Star. Ah, who have we here? Lucky Star. Now, why does it? That's ringing a bell for something I was probably reading the other day. Let's find out. Lucky Star. Ah, no, I haven't read any of those. Hero of Lucky Star book series, children's sci-fi adventure written by Isaac Asimov under the pen name Paul French. There's also an anime series. Ah, old Asimov guy. I haven't read any of those. Interestingly enough, Lucky Star is the hero of a series of science fiction books by Isaac Asimov using the pen name Paul French, intended for children. Let's see, Asimov 51 met with his agent Frederick Paul and Walter Bradbury. Then the science fiction editor Doubleday and Co. had a proposal for him. Paul and Bradbury wanted Asimov to write a juvenile science fiction novel that would serve as the basis for a TV series. Uniformly awful program. So he decided to publish it under the pseudonym Paul French. Very good. David Starr, Space Ranger. Sounds like it. Yes, indeed. I think there must be tons of them by now. The kind of Buck Rogers type, if you like. I mean, the ones that popped into my head there, Carlos. Who we got? Rocket Red Glare. Captain Klep is fantastic. I love Captain Klep. And Captain Kremen's almost a spoof of the spoofs, if you like, and Captain Klep's very much a spoof of Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. These are old kind of black and white stories from 2000 AD. I've actually got all the 2000 AD comics going back a certain point now. So as we're progressing, by the way, I suppose the plan with the Sci-Fi Ulster-Fry is that we're going to do this A to Z of science fiction. Our first episode, Carlos, and is going to be I don't know how to put it, the numbers, if you like. Before we get to the A of the A to Z, we're going to deal with the numbers, and we're going to start that next week. So we're going to be covering 2001, the Arthur C. Clarke series of 2001. And I suppose a quick chat about the films that are from that, and we have also the book. What am I thinking of? Well, I was having a wee quick natter. It's one of the reasons why I was having a wee quick read of Time and Stars, which is the first sci-fi book I ever bought with my own money. And the last story in this is The Sentinel, which is the original story for the idea, if you like, that 2001 emerged out of. A wee book here with Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, I think, isn't it? Lost Worlds of 2001. So we'll be having a wee bit of a look at that in terms of Clarke stuff. And then we're going to be looking at 2000 AD, which is probably going to take a fair bit of time, but I'm going to see if I can get some, I don't know how to do it actually. Maybe see if we can get the OBS studio working so that we can actually bring stuff up on the screen, maybe to, especially if we're talking about a comic book over many, many years. But yeah, I'd imagine there's tons of them. Most likely Asimov's Lucky Star, yes, indeed. Again, it's big business, isn't it? It's what you're actually seeing here. Flash Gordon turning up, for example, in King Feature syndicates in 1934, is that you've got a newspaper who's looking at the syndication of this comic and go, wow, that's successful. I want one. Get me a Buck Rogers. And so we get Flash Gordons, we get this kind of thing. I think there's Wikipedia probably has some that I probably don't know. Let's have a wee look. Buck Rogers. Science fiction hero. Let's see. Most Buck Rogers strip, published 1929 to 67, syndicated by John F. Dill Company, later called the National Newspaper Syndicate, was popular enough to inspire other newspaper syndicates to launch their own science fiction strips. Most famous of these imitators was Flash Gordon, King Features Syndicate, 1934 to 2003. Others included Brick Bradford, who I've never heard of before, Central Press Association, 1933 to 87. Let's have a look at Brick Bradford. Ping and Don Dixon and the Hidden Empire, Watkins Syndicate, 1935 to 1941, and Speed Spalding. It says the Buck Rogers strip also probably inspired developing a strip based on John Carter of Mars. The United Features Syndicate from 41 to 43, which was introduced in 41, although the character first appeared in 1912. So there we go. We've got Brick Bradford. Let's have a wee quick nosy. Don Dixon and Speed Spalding. There we go. Brick Bradford by William Ritt and Clarence Gray. Sci-Fi comic strip, first distributed in 2020. Yeah, it's got that similar kind of look, doesn't it? I've never read a Brick Bradford. Achieved its greatest popularity outside of the United States, particularly seems to be Australia, New Zealand, and France, where he's known as Luke Bredifer or Luke Ironman. Greece. Let's see, who else do we have there? No, I think I must have clicked the wrong link from something there. Hang on. Oh, okay. Let's do with When Worlds Collide. When Worlds Collide had far-reaching influences in the science fiction genre. The themes of an approaching planet threatening the Earth, an athletic hero, his girlfriend, and a scientist traveling to a new planet by rocket were used by writer Alex Raymond in his 1934 comic strip Flash Gordon. Jack Williamson's 1934 short story Born of the Sun also used the concept of a scientist and his fiancée escaping the destruction of the Earth in a hurriedly constructed arc of space. The 1941 to 40 to 41 newspaper comic strip Speed Spalding, an adaptation credited to the novel's authors, was more directly based on the author. The themes of escape from a doomed planet to a habitable one also can be seen in Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's 1938 comic Superman. There you go, a bit of influence of When Worlds Collide there, which is what had popped up on my screen there when I clicked that. Don Dixon and the Hidden Empire. Let's see. Fiffer. Fiffer and writer Bob Muir. Don Dixon and the Hidden Empire. There we go. Interestingly enough, Carlos is saying, I mostly read the sci-fi short story collections as a kid. Jerome Bixby was my favorite. If I remember correctly, he wrote the story It's a Good Life. It became possibly the most popular episode on The Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone. I've just started watching those again, Carlos. I've got my little things that I'm watching, things that I'm reading, things that I'm checking out, just in front of me. I've done a wee bit of stuff just on Joel Gerard there. As a cracking Buck Rogers, but I've watched about the first 10 episodes and enjoying them. Yeah, and they're so well written. I don't know, I've been trying to just get through some TV lately. It's not been great. We haven't been too well, so we've been kind of, let's watch some box sets and stuff. I did my best to get through Orphan Black there. I got about just to the short of season, just before season 3. There, though, my wife piled on ahead and I actually caught the ending, which is a bit annoying. But there we go. Let me see. But yeah, goodness, it would be good to actually write up a little piece on Buck Rogers and the Flash Gordon and all the various types of hero and how they've kind of evolved a bit, I think, and how they've merged into something. As I said, we now have the scientist kind of hero, if you like. We get characters like that, and I said Farscape's a great example. Pardon me, even Stargate as well. Apparently, Stargate's getting a reboot. I wonder what that's about. I wonder if it's going to be any good. I wonder if it's even necessary at this point. I'm really wondering, is Hollywood so bereft of any kind of original idea whatsoever? Saying that, things that are on my radar, I've just watched the trailer for Disclosure Day, Steven Spielberg's next science fiction film. And I suppose I looked at it, and I first of all, I'm a bit sick of the way trailers are being presented by taking a classic pop song and giving us a little single ping, single note from it, built like a nostalgia thing for a particular song. It's getting a bit annoying, isn't it? It's too many people ruining good songs. I really didn't like what they did with Dark Side of the Moon for June. In fact, I loathed it in every every sense of the word, So I don't know about yourselves, folks. I know Steven Spielberg's a very internationally acclaimed director. I think his movies are generally quite good. But I will say this, I do not like Steven Spielberg's science fiction, and I never have. I'm sorry. And I'm not a fan of Close Encounters. I find Close Encounters of the Third Kind to be an incredibly boring film up until the end. I tend just to watch the end of it. What else have we got? Spielberg's Sci-Fi, E.T. My main problem with him is I tend to think that his science fiction is very... the word that I would use to describe it is twee. Let's see, Steven Spielberg, Steven with a V. Let's have a nosy. Filmography. He's done a few sci-fi films, hasn't he? We've got Close Encounters. We've got E.T. He's involved in Twilight Zone, the movie. What else have we got? Let's see, sci-fi. We've got Artificial Intelligence. What's the story that's based on? Super Toys Last. What's it called? Last All Year Round, isn't it? Last All Summer Long. Brian Aldiss. Minority Report, which I thought I enjoyed it, but I thought again a bit too clean. I thought that the character that Tom Cruise plays in the film and the book is a junkie, isn't he? He's a very clean junkie. That's probably the wrong term, actually. He's not a junk user, but he's a drug addict, isn't he? What else we got? War of the Worlds. His version of War of the Worlds was awful, just god awful. Hated it, loathed it, couldn't stand it. Ready Player One, okay. And we've got Disclosure Day. But generally, I don't know. There's something about his sci-fi that's a wee bit twee. There's a film missing there, isn't it? Where's Battery? Is it Battery's Not Included? As I always thought was one of his. It probably isn't. Let's see who did that, which I quite liked, actually. Oh, it's not Steven Spielberg at all. There you go. Shows you what I know. Directed by Matthew Robbins and produced by Ronald L. Schwerin. Oh, here we go. Why am I thinking? Was conceived by Steven Spielberg for the 1980s television anthology series Amazing Stories. Expanded into a feature film. There you go. That's why I'm probably remembering his name with that, But I don't know. It looks like a kind of Alien Arrivals film, this Disclosure Day. Though I think that the film seems to be giving it some kind of religious twist. And the last little clip of it just reminded me on all those little evil woodland critters from South Park. Yeah, I read a lot of short story collections as a kid, Carlos. Oh goodness, it's kind of got me thinking about having just read a couple of from Of Time and Stars, one of my all-time favorite, possibly my all-time favorite short story, I don't know, is The Ape About the House. Oh, so funny. Um, and I often got it. I've got it at the minute. Dangerous Visions, Harlan Ellison's Dangerous Visions. And in terms of a kind of who's who and some great sort of short story, um, there's a lot of good writers in here. And quite a few decent stories by the looks of it. But yeah, I must have a wee chat some night about short story collections and stuff. But I'm trying to kind of get on top of my reading a little bit and get more of that kind of thing done. Drunk, if I remember it correctly, he wrote the story "It's a Good Life." That became the most episode of the Twilight Zone. I consider Seabird sci-fi for catatonics. Yeah, it's I actually remember that summer, of would it be the summer of '77, where everything either had the Close Encounters poster, that mountain in America, whatever it's called. God, I should know that. And the Star Wars, and it was almost like it was a weird, these two science fiction films competing at the time, and there was such different animals. Um, really were. What do you call that? Is it that mountain in Devil's Tower? He was Devil's something. There you go, Devil's Tower, also known as Mathipula, or Bear Lodge, is a laccolithic butte composed of, I guess stop saying but when it comes to buttes, composed of igneous rock. Yeah, it's a very, very cool poster, I thought. But yeah, I really didn't like Minority Report at all. There's something quite twee, as I said, about the ET, these kind of films. Yeah, Minority Report. I just thought, I don't know. There's a certain thing that I'm often not too sure about sanitizing slightly, content maybe that's for slightly older people, or slightly, more mature topics to try and get a kid's audience in there. And so Minority Report's a very cool story. Um, but yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't quite like kind of the tinting of the film either. But there we go. Yeah, so I've caught that. I'll happily give it a watch, and hopefully maybe it'll surprise me. Um, in terms of, I suppose, TV and cinema, I suppose Fallout Series 2's just started there on Amazon. I caught the first episode of that. But the thing that I'm really looking forward to, and I'm not sure if we've got a release date for it, but we're nearly at the end of the year, and I actually thought it was coming out this year. So bear with me a wee second. Let's see if we can get a bit of info. I've been waiting to see the Rogue Trooper film, which is coming soon, directed by Duncan Jones. Let me see, have we got any info? It just says upcoming. I thought it was to be released in 2025. Let's see, starring Aneurin Barnard, Haley Atwell, Sean Bean, Matt Berry, Asa Butterfield, Jermaine Clement, Jack Loudon, Alice Lowe, Daryl McCormick, Diane Morgan, and Reese Shearsmith. Rebellion Development is the production company. Rogue Trooper tells the story of 19, a genetic rogue, in other words, a genetic infantryman who finds himself the sole survivor of an invasion force. Desperate to track down the traitor who sold him and his comrades out, the super soldiers, accompanied by 3 killed in action squad mates whose personalities have been stored in his gun, helmet, and rucksack. So this will be, of course, Helm, Gunner, and Bagman. Let's see, it was scheduled to be released in cinemas in 2025, but has since been delayed to an unknown date. First look images of the film were unveiled in June 2025. I think some people weren't too happy that the genetic infantrymen did not have white eyes. Rogue troopers are genetic infantrymen. They have blue skin, white hair, and white eyes. Have you read The Last Question by Asimov? I have indeed. It's a long time ago. It's up there with like Carlos stories like the 9 billion names of God. Isn't that the one where they build a computer, or is that the 9 billion names of God? Hang on. Oh, they're what I'm particularly fond of. They're called Shaggy God stories. Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. Let's see, which one is that? Well, that's turned up in a lot of collections, hasn't it? So it ranks with Nightfall as one of Asimov's best known, most acclaimed short stories. I really love Nightfall. Invariably the Last Question. Yeah, let's see. Yes, I've read it. And again, Carlos, stuff like that was annotated a lot in 2000 AD. You'll get all sorts of stories like that in Tharg's Future Shocks, Tharg's Time Twist, this kind of thing, you know. But yes, a long time ago. The thing is, I've just been reading some Arthur C. Clarke mostly lately. In terms of the big four, I've just finished God Emperor of Dune again as well, so I've read a little bit of Frank Herbert. But as I said, this is the book that I'm really fond on. This little collection of Time and Stars is the one that got me started. Got my name on it. Let's see. This isn't the original one. That's gone. But the 9 billion names of God, that kind of thing. Counter of Dawn, the Sentinel, this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's interesting that writers like that see a lot of them tend to preoccupied with topics like that, you know. The show I'm anxiously awaiting is the last season of The Boys. Anything by Garth Ennis is at the very least entertaining. I would agree. I'm a big fan of Garth Ennis. And is he an American citizen now? I believe. Yes, there he is. Northern Ireland. I thought had he emigrated or something. Let's see. Yeah, he became a citizen of the US in July 2016. We lose all our good people here. And I'd call them one of the good people, but they always travel. They always leave, if you like. But yes, good luck to them anyway. Yeah, Garth Ennis is excellent. If you ever get a chance, Carlos, Garth Ennis has got some very interesting Judge Dredd stories. Where there are Irish judges. What's Ireland called in Judge Dredd's world? Murphyville, I believe. There's a kind of exchange program between Judge Dredd and Judge Joyce. It's very good. But yeah, I love all the way back to 2000 AD, and he's always been a very very strong writer. I was actually just thinking because I'm going to be starting with my A to Z of science fiction on the numbers and looking at 2000 AD. And the interest, I mean, that'll probably take a whole episode, maybe even two just on its own. The amount of talent that we have coming out of that magazine. But yeah, Preacher, The Boys. What else have we got there? Punisher, Hitman. Originally from Northern Ireland. Yeah. Let's just see. Craziness, True Faith, just Revolver, Suburban Hell. Talking about Revolver earlier there. Judge Dredd, Judgment Day. He's got a few of those Time Flies. That's a different story, isn't it? And the Time Twisters and stuff. Emerald Isle Stories. That was Steve Dillon, number 727732 of 2080, I think. There's another one called When Irish Pies Are Smiling, which is quite interesting. But I think it's about a heist that to do with something called Sod's disease, is it? It's only going to be cured. Some Irish guys, they steal all this gold. That's quite funny, you know. But yeah, I've followed the boys up until now. Looking forward to it. Did I ever get round to reading his Lost Brigade Limited series? No. I haven't got a lot of I haven't been able to get many kind of comic books or graphic novels of any kind lately. I suppose the last thing I got was a replacement of some Lone Wolf and Cub books. But oddly enough, I've been sort of saying to my wife, I've been just dying to get up to have a wee walk around Forbidden Planet or something, possibly over the holidays, just to go up and have a wee nosy. I've been thinking about comic books and stuff. Um, but I was actually thinking about certain things, maybe trying to pick up a couple of collections, just to do some sort of work on, My favorite is the quest for the missing Bollock, where Hitler's missing Bollock achieves sentience and becomes a universal threat. That sounds about right. Yes, indeed. Oh, there's a lot of good stuff like that. What was the one? Is it Jamie? Is it Milligan and Hewlett? Is it who's part of Gorillas now? Did a story once called what would it be called? Hooligan's Haircut. If you ever get a chance to read it, I used to have a copy of the book, and the idea is that this nurse gives our hero Hooligan a haircut which creates a pan-dimensional hole in the middle of his hair. And no matter what way you look at it, the hole's always through. And rather ingeniously, I always liked the fact that the book cover had the hole through his hair. It was very, very good. But yes, indeed. Yeah. I suppose we have a good old natter about him next time, Carlos, actually, because we're going to dig out a whole bunch of. We're going to be talking about all the stuff from 2080 over the years, up until the point I left it. And I might actually produce the two stories that killed 2080 for me next week, and I'll explain why they killed it for me. But yes, they got lots of good stuff from Garth Ennis. I was odd enough, I've had my head thinking in that word today. There, I was thinking about Revolver because I've been checking out some old Dan Dare stuff. I was trying to get my hands on some old Dan Dare radio serials. So I was reading The New Eagle from #1 for quite a few years as a kid. And Dan Dare is a character who kind of got, as much as he appeared in the original Eagles, the British comic, he kind of had a reboot already. A very different Dan Dare in 2080. Yeah, something I seem to remember being kind of 3D as well, if I'm not mistaken. I wonder could I find that? I might be in one of the old annuals, But yes, indeed. So the Dash Decents, the Dan Dares, the Flash Gordons, the Flash Gordons, not to forget Flash Gordon, are my all-time favorite sidekick name. Whereas we have Dr. Hans Zarkov, we have Dr. Yui. Flash Gordon's scientific sidekick is Dr. Flexi Jerkoff, which is a ridiculous name. I think it's a fantastic name for a very silly film. But yeah, no word on the Rogue Trooper at the minute, folks. If anybody's not kind of heard about the Rogue Trooper, the original Rogue Trooper stories are very, very good. There's a history and a lore to the comics. They're kind of built off a lot of the World War comics that came out of Britain, things like Battle and Action and stuff. The kind of Jerry Finley Day stuff. And it has a real particular feel to it. It has a beautiful look. Some of the artists that worked on it in the early days, like particularly Cam Kennedy, as I recall, just gave it a very, very distinctive feel. And I kind of I have a tattoo on my arm here is of my own biochip. It's from Rogue Trooper. It's a great vengeance story. It's a great hunting them down one week after the other, this kind of thing. As you travel through this place called New Earth, which is a world destroyed by biological and chemical warfare and nuclear warfare, I suppose. So the interesting thing is to see what Duncan Jones does with Rogue Trooper, because the actual origin story, etc., the Court Zone massacre, the search for the traitor general, all of that is absolutely 100% the dog's bollocks, really well written. You couldn't make this stuff up better. So if they're going to take it and muck around with it, they're going to make it crapper. I think they're just going to, the thing I keep saying is that there's a wealth of material out of 2000 AD. We're all complaining about the absolute crap in cinema and TV at the minute. And this stuff, it's in a visual medium already. It's got some of the greatest talent you've had of the, in comic books, TV, and cinema of the late 20th century. And they know how to do this stuff, and they've written it very well. It's the same with the Dread epics. You can make great TV series out of these, and you wouldn't need to change a word. You don't need to. You can just make them for the screen and adapt them with the bare minimum of change. Maxi Cherkov, yes, indeed. Dear. He's like the Russian noble Ivan Yakinov. That's the one, yes. Flexi Cherkov. It's the flexi bit. I think it's great. All sorts of things could have went in there. This is Flash Gordon, Flash Gordon 2, I believe. I don't think there's a third one. Which are kind of soft porn spoofs, if you like, of Flash Gordon from the 80s, and they're very, very funny. I think intentionally so. But they are what they are, You get quite a lot of, I suppose, innuendo in things like Dash Decent and Captain Kremen and stuff. Probably a lot more than just innuendo. More like innuendo, that kind of stuff, But there is a bit of a sexual undercurrent to some of the imitators of Buck Rogers, if you like. But Flash Gordon has no way attempted to hide it. There you go. If you've never seen them, Carlos, check them out. They're very funny. So there we go. Let's have a wee look. Fallout Season 2 Rogue Trooper. The show that everybody, I think, is watching at the minute is Pluribus, which I think is a hive mind kind of thing. And my understanding, Carlos, talking about Twilight Zones. God, there was a really good one I watched the other night, and I'm trying to. Who was in it? It was a kind of last man, last woman type one. Which there are often a few of those, aren't there? It was Charles Bronson and what did you call her? The nose? Bewitched. Elizabeth Montgomery as a kind of like the last man, last woman of this kind of post-apocalyptic war event. And it was pretty good. I was going, goodness gracious me, there's Charles Bronson in this Twilight Zone. All sorts of interesting actors turn up, I don't know if I have a favourite or not, though. What's yours, Carlos? Where are you saying it's probably... Where are we? It's a Good Life. Oh, the most popular episode. Which one's that? Bear with me a second. Season 3. I haven't got to it yet. I'm at season 1. Oh, I think I know that one. Yeah. That's the one with the kids, isn't it? With the power. And it's kind of remade again, isn't it? And is it the Twilight Zone film? Yeah, I remember seeing that. So a lot of these things when you see them when you're young, Well, there we go. So listen, folks, just a wee bit of a general chat tonight, as I said. The stuff that I've been reading. Carlos, if you're interested, by the way, I don't know if you caught this the other night. If you're into the God Emperor of Dune, you will really like this. This is the Hair Carpet Weavers, which I just finished by Andreas Eschbach. Very interestingly, I suppose the book kind of almost every chapter is a different story of a different character, but all their stories kind of weave together. It has a wonderful kind of I don't know how you would put it. It comes full circle, very very well, and is a very because there's a mystery. What are these carpets for? Where do they go? And the mystery is very satisfying, and it would get you thinking of as much as I thought, the God Emperor of Dune, even Dune Messiah, just the Dune series in general must be an influence on this. I was also thinking that the King in Yellow, that kind of stuff must have an influence on it as well. It's an incredibly good book. I really don't want to spoil it in any way, but if this accompanies something like God Emperor of Dune very well, which I've also just finished. And as I said, I'll be reading some of Time and Stars, any kind of collections of short stories, Arthur C. Clarke. The two I read here were just Encounter at Dawn, which has always been an intriguing one. And of course, I thought I'd have a wee quick read at The Sentinel, which is a very short story. Within that, you'll find, of course, it's not the monolith isn't a monolith. It's not a 1x4x9. It's a pyramid in the original story. And at the minute, I'm having a fight with myself as to what to pick up next, because I've got some books to get on with, Scorch says, Politics says, have a good night. Looking forward to my favorite tyrant being covered in detail. Well, as I said, we're just saying hello this week, and we're back, and hopefully this Thursday is where we'll start. So I'm not too sure how to go about it, probably because sometimes we've done a preamble, haven't we? Just a little bit of let's set out our stall, if you like, for the book. And I've got some notes done already on that, just little things for background. There we go. I've got our first Ixion note there. Just started there the other day. So working on the prologue already, I've got plenty of wee notes scribbled in there, trying to get some things down. Pardon me, I've done my little illustration for the start of the book. Not that I'm any kind of artist, and I've been getting a little timeline in relation to some things to do with homosexuality, Frank Herbert and the God Emperor, etc. Just this is the book that Frank's going to give us some of his opinions upon this thing, this topic. So what I've tried to do, just in relation to that, things like the AIDS epidemic at the time, the big AIDS explosion, is I've tried to put together a little timeline, just for example, in relation to Herbert's ideas, what's going on in the general public, what's announced in the world, major changes, this kind of thing, and just also to sort of tie that up into get the dates right, etc. Get a proper chronology for Frank's relationship with his son Bruce, etc., who died of AIDS-related pneumonia. So just that's where I've been doing a little bit of research, is just to get a little bit of a chronology of homosexuality and HIV, AIDS, etc. in America in relation to stuff that Frank's going to be talking about. So just a very simple, basic little timeline. And then already I've made a wee start on the prologue. Just some terms need to be having a look at, etc. The one thing we're going to have a wee bit of a natter about that before we get, hopefully this doesn't put people off, but I don't like to be too academic with these things, but we're going to have a wee quick chat about a couple of things from Ulster-Fry's anatomy of criticism. So as much as I'm sure a lot of you want to sit just and enjoy these books and find out every little detail that we can find, for those who are into a little bit of literary criticism, we've got just a little thing to read to you, but something to consider in relation to your heroes within a book, how you may look at them differently if they are mortal or if they're not mortal, this kind of thing. how we can approach, I suppose, different modes of criticism, depending on if we're looking at an ordinary person, a hero, someone who's so far above man, or even a god, this kind of thing, you know. But I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to my favorite tyrant being covered in detail. I am too. As I said, I've read it recently. Just before doing this, I wanted to refresh my memory. Scorched Earth Policy 6, and I got a very different sense of reading the book this time. But at the same time, every time I've read it before has been for work. I've been looking for something in particular, or looking at it because of a particular theme. So this time I just read it for fun. No, I made no notes on it. That's for the book club, you know, whatsoever. I did sort of fold up. Looks like I've made a couple of flat marks here. Just to, that's probably the stuff we were talking. Yes, the stuff on, we were just talking about the stuff on homosexuality there. Bookmark that within there. Some of it's a little bit controversial, etc. You know, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of came away thinking this book's not as complicated as I thought it was, and I enjoyed it. And it has a different pacing. It felt more relaxed. I don't know, more sedate in some ways. So it's going to be interesting. But we'll take it one chapter at a time. As I said, the other thing I'm working on at the minute is to replace the title cards in all these videos that we've done on the 3 book clubs. We'll probably put them all in together. We're just going to go put chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, this kind of thing onto them, so they're easier just to kind of navigate. Because normally when we do live broadcasts, we do it'll be all this time and there's a little date thing, etc. So once these, just to tidy them up within the playlists on the channel, you know. So that's kind of what else. Oh, the only other thing I've been reading really very quickly, I'll just say it before we go. I think I'll maybe have to keep it for another time. Looks like I've picked it up and put it down somewhere else. I had a wee quick read through. I found it. Rossum's Universal Robots, also known as RER, the other day. There's a great wee play. It's a bit doom and gloom, a bit like what we were talking about there, Carl. So one of these kind of shaggy god stories, if you like. And the perception of the inventors with what will be done with their robots in society. This was written in 1920, I believe, wasn't it? Let me see. I think it was first published, first performed in 22. Let me just check that. First published date 1923. We have here. There we go. Hang on, written in 1920, it says here. So first published in 23, but written in 1920, and the Theatre Guild production appeared on Broadway in 1922. So just over 100 years ago. As much as the attitudes of men and women within this are probably that of its time, which is a thing you have to say of science fiction always. The idea of what will be done with these robots is very interesting, and I would recommend people having a wee look at it in terms of AI and robots at the minute. You know, makes you. I wonder if Elon Musk has read this, because if he hasn't, he should, and then he might shit himself. You know. But there we go. So within God Emperor of June, Hair Carpet Weavers RER. I'm still at the Lensman series, by the way. Not much for about a book and a half to go. And just the problem of getting through that slowly is the book is ginormous. It's like reading a phone book with tiny writing, you know. So there we go, folks. So that's just it today. Just want to say this is what we'll be doing for the year. So from Thursdays we'll be having the book club for God Emperor of June. If anyone's interested, this is the copy I'll be working with. This one here, which is, here we go. There's that Golan's. It's Golan's science fiction. I got loads of them. I've picked this one. It's got publishing errors in it already, but just simply for the size of the text and the darkness of the text, just easy to read basically. So that's the book I'll be working with. And we'll get started with the prologue at the very least this Thursday, and therefore every Friday or Saturday we're going to be having what we call our Sci-Fi Ulster-Fry, which is this. And we'll be running with the A to Z, first of all, of the A to Z of science fiction, which we have a wee video sorted out. We'll put it up so it's on the front page of the station. And we're going to start with the zeros. So next time when we're doing the Sci-Fi Ulster-Fry, we're going to be having a look at all the science fiction that begins with a number, if you like. We'll include some fantasy and horror in there too. So I imagine we'll have the 2001 series by Arthur C. Clarke. We'll probably have 300, I imagine there. We'll have 2000 AD, which will probably be an epic discussion. There's just so much to go back to 1977 with 2000 AD, you know. So we'll be doing that Fridays or Saturdays once a week as well, because we just felt that the book club detracted a little bit from all the other stuff. And in the meantime, we're going to be trying and putting forward a few videos. I'd meant to have a wee natter about Frankenstein, by the way, tonight, but we'll keep it for another time as well. I suppose Guillermo del Toro's recent version on Netflix. I caught that recently as well. There's a new Dracula coming out too, and it seems that Christoph Waltz is in all of these things. But there we go, folks. Listen, I will let you head on for the evening. Thank you very much for joining me for a wee bit of an hour. As I said, we just popped on tonight. We're going to get our shows up and running regularly from next week, and well, it should be fun. So look after yourselves. I'm getting barked at in the doghouse. Look at that there. Where is she? Look at that. Who's barking at me? You barking at me? She's barking at me. Well, somebody wants belly rubs, so I better say goodnight, folks. All the very best for me here. I will be back on Christmas Day, and if I don't see you between now, have a really nice set of holidays. Enjoy yourselves, look after yourselves, and be safe. Chat to you soon. All the best from me and Holly here. Bye bye.